So Slayer is a mix of new units in Darius, Olaf, Tryndamere, and Samira,
Hmm.
but also Zed became a Slayer and Pike became a Slayer, so
Hmm.
that now it's a three-piece and six-piece.
Hmm.
And the general idea is that they gain lifesteal and bonus damage. How's that work?
Yeah. So the lower the Slayer's health is, the more lifesteal they'll gain, and that kind of helps them with this sort of like rebounding back into combat. And the lower their opponent's health is, the more damage they deal. So this is like really great on units like Darius for cleaning up, or just in general, honestly, getting a little bit of extra burst damage. It also pairs really well with the healing because if there's two low people fighting, your Slayer and someone else, they get a ton of lifesteal and they deal a ton more damage. So they kind of get to spike back into combat, which is really helpful on melee on sort of sustaining out.
Yeah. So to be clear on how this works, if I have a full health Zed,
Hmm.
he's gaining 30% life steal and 50% damage. Or, yeah, 50% damage. Sorry, 30% life steal, 30% damage. See, even I'm confused. Uh, he starts at the baseline. If
Yes.
the Zed drops to like 1 HP,
Right.
then he has 60% life steal.
Correct.
And if the Zed is hitting an enemy at 1 HP, he's got 60% bonus damage, right?
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so let's jump into the champions, the new ones.
Hmm.
Darius. So a couple things on Darius I wanted to touch on here. So this is a reprint, but now he's a 3 cost instead of a 2 cost,
Hmm.
and there's some changes to his abilities. You want to go over
Yes.
those?
Yeah. So we wanted to bring back Darius, and there was a lot of concern about Darius in that in set three in Galaxies. When Darius was powerful and was doing things right, he kind of destroyed a whole enemy team. Just boom, 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 and that's a lot of the fun of it. But playing against that regularly, a little problematic. And at the same time, when he consistently failed because he was getting CC'd or was dying, he just felt like a useless unit. And so one of the things we really wanted to focus on, and one of the reasons we brought him up to 3 cost, was to try and sort of bring those bounds in, where he was less likely to critically fail, and his critical success cases were a lot more limited and required like very specific itemization and a team comp that can support him. So this time around, and there's a bunch of subtle changes, but the main thing is while he's in the act of actively like jumping over towards an enemy and slamming on them, he's unstoppable. Um,
So no more QS required.
right, exactly. And then with each successive cast he goes through, he will do less damage. So let's say I have like 1,000 base damage with him. I go and I kill someone, dealing 1,000 damage, run through all of the armor modifications. My next one will be at 800, and the next one will be at 80% of 800, which
640.
yeah, 640. Yeah, yep.
Bam.
So and that'll continue onwards until he fails, in which case it'll reset back
Yeah.
when he does an initial cast again.
Yeah. Yeah, and keep in mind he's also a Slayer, so what can actually happen is even though it's supposed to go down, the damage can look like it's going up because you hit a lower health target than your first one. Because again, we're talking about the base damage, which is then multiplied by Slayer. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep,
Yeah, so that can be pretty interesting.
yep.
The other thing I wanted to call out, because we're going to get asked this question, is that Slayer says lifesteal only.
Right,
Darius doesn't really care about lifesteal.
correct.
Do we consider that a problem, or why are we okay with that?
Darius gains a lot of inherent power from his resets, which half of the Slayer output of dealing more damage to targets who are lower really benefits from. And so, with that much power given to Darius and his reset potential, him not benefiting as much from the lifesteal. I mean, he still gets a little bit of sustain from it, but him not benefiting nearly as much as someone like Tryndamere, who we'll talk about next, wasn't nearly like as much of a problem. And the reality is that Hex Tech was already one of the most powerful items on Darius. And if
Yeah.
we gave him that inherent lifesteal instead of forcing him to use a slot on it, we'd have to really bring down his power a whole
Yeah.
lot more to a point where he probably wouldn't be nearly as satisfying. And we really wanted to keep those highs. So,
Yep. I agree with that. Yeah, like you said, forcing the slot to be almost Hextech Gunblade or Hodge really
yep,
helps us keep his power in check. So,
yeah.
cool. So yeah, speaking of which, Tryndamere, new champion, Warlord. So Warlord
Mm-hmm.
finally gets their 4 cost chosen. Sorry, Xinjiao. Tryndamere is just going to be a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Slayer also, and Duelist. So
Yep.
3 traits, very powerful. As you see here from the stats, very high base AD. Not that tanky, but his
Sure.
ability is spins towards the most enemies in a line,
Mm-hmm.
dealing 100% of his AD in his path, so not that big. It's a
Mm-hmm.
decent sized chunk. But then his next 3 autos do an additional 75, 100%, 200% damage. So
Yep.
basically, his next three autos chunk. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Early on in testing, we had him have infinite range. I think now it's like his attack range plus 3 hexes or something. But he would just basically beeline to the back line, like one shot 2 characters, and then beeline out. And
Yeah.
it was just it was super intense. But he hits really hard, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. He's one of the few characters that just like passively through his traits gets to benefit from almost every aspect of
Yeah.
our damage amp system.
Yeah.
So he gets to run through spell power. He gets to run through the damage amp from Slayer. And if you just slap on an IE on him, he gets to run through the crit. So he just hits like a truck.
Yeah.
Susceptible to CC, burst, all that kind of stuff. But you'll see some big old numbers, kind of almost like a melee Draven from him when
Yeah.
itemized well.
Yeah, the funny thing I've seen with him is like you forget that those three autos are generating mana. And so oftentimes what ends up happening is those three autos with Slayer kicked in will get him back to full health. He'll take enough damage to get enough mana to ult again. And he's almost in this like permanent state of ulting, which is really scary and definitely feels like Summoner's Rift Tryndamere, so
Absolutely. Yeah, he's spinning to win. He's all over the battlefield. He's really fun to watch too, so
yeah.
fun forecast scary.
Yeah, except unless you're playing sharpshooters, then he's a little less fun.
Yeah. I think the range pullbacks have made him a little bit better about getting right to that back line, but he can definitely devastate some poorly positioned enemy units for sure.
I think he's one we'll have to keep the tuning pretty careful on PvE, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see.